This is interesting. Like when Heather, when you were talking about like not airing things that you were mad about, just give me a fucking ride to the airport. I mean, it's kind of like, it sounds like you're finding your voice as an adult in ways that are contrary to the way that you were raised. Now, to me, my ex was an Aries and New York. He's in publishing, and he would get mad right away. And I was never really good at being angry. I always get upset about it or embarrassed or I regret it. So how he would get angry right away and then it would be over right away. I would store up.
Wait. Peter's an Aries. My husband is an Aries, and that is exactly true. He yells, takes a big shit, and then is fine, walks in the room like, and he's like, hey.
Yeah.
Or makes a joke. And I'm like, what's
wrong with you?
Oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah.
But how I would get mad is I would store up. You did something shitty. I'm not saying anything. Oh, I don't like that. I'm not saying anything. I'm not like that. And then 3 weeks later, he'd go, hey, how are you? And then I would explode like a volcano.
Right.
And he's like, what I learned from that relationship, he told me, like, you got to get mad when you're mad. Because if you're mad about something that happened 3 weeks ago and then you spring it on me, it's not fair.
Yeah, but it's also, you know, there's all different ways of trying to like express yourselves. But if we're either being passive or aggressive, those are two sides of the same defensive coin. Because all that does is really try to, you know, kind of protect our egos. It doesn't give us a chance to actually find a way to connect. It's not about the relationship. It becomes about us. And so that's when we're kind of like off course on it. But when we can find a way where it's like, you know, generally it's like, if we tend to be passive, you know, and then we want to change, the pendulum swings to the other direction, then we become aggressive, right? Because we're just trying to like figure out what the balance can be. But inevitably, when we get to a place where we can understand what it is that we're feeling and the issues that we're experiencing and find a way to communicate that so the other person can hear and help meet our needs, then that's something that can help the relationship.
Are you an advocate of just making your needs known?
I'm absolutely an advocate of making our needs known, but also making sure that we're not reacting and we're responding. So that like, if we feel something in the moment, feel it, but give yourself a moment to breathe through it, even let your partner know that you need a minute to process it.
Right.
But then be able to come back to the table and say like, hey, this is what happened. This is what I experienced. This is what I was feeling about it. Not pointing the finger or, you know, kind of throwing criticisms or judgments at the other person, but finding a way of just, you know, kind of active listening and communicating our needs for sure.
My husband is like, his anger is like, I need to not talk to you right now.
What makes that anger? Why does that make that anger?
It's kind of like I know I will have gone too far when he's like, I need to not talk right now because I'm so angry. I'm just thinking about what I'm going to say next to hurt you. Okay. So give me a moment. I'm going to give you a moment. And when we regroup.
Yeah.
Well, and then we kind of like slowly work our way back to the center of the house.
I love that. Yeah.
Totally. I think that's kind of good. I mean, I do that too, because what I learned was like, he'd say something and I'd be like, are you freaking kidding me? And then I would try to defend myself. Yeah. And what my therapist taught me after like hearing about this is like, she's like, don't defend yourself. Why? You can't. You're never going to win the argument with like kind of figuring out. And so now I do just go, not, you know, and I leave, I walk away, and I will not do the talking because I'm like, it's a waste of energy. And then it can also, I think when you also realize whoever you're, you know, when you realize you're with a partner or whoever, where it can escalate to a place that it's going to like screw up the day, the weekend. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to go, I am the superior being who's going to like shut it down. And even though he deserves to hear me say this, I'm actually not, because I'm not going to cut off my nose to spite my weekend. You know, like
that's when it turns into like a power struggle, that kind of like classic power struggle when everybody's fighting back and forth, everybody's defending themselves and want to be heard. Nobody's fucking listening to anybody. It's all a waste of, you know, our breath and our energy. But really in those moments, the intention, and when we get honest with ourselves about like, really, what is my intention right now? If my intention is about protecting myself, then maybe I need to like pull back for a minute and just give myself a breath. Because what we want to do, because the whole power struggle, it's all bullshit. It's all an illusion. Like, it's not like, oh, if I let him talk, or if I say that he was right about that, then I'm giving him power. It's not about that. It's more about how can we actually share how we're feeling, listen to the other person, know that we're practicing some level of vulnerability with each other, because then that's serving the relationship, not either one of us. And I know if at least I'm doing my part to clean my side of the street and doing that and showing up in that kind of way, then that's something that actually helps empower me in an authentic way, not just kind of defending my ego in the moment.
It's messy. I mean, it's kind of like as bad when it gets really bad with me and my husband, or when we're going through a tough time. I also think because we've been together so long, I'm either going to go through my shit with you or somebody else. Like it's going to be you or somebody else. I mean, if I get together with somebody else, I've already broken you in.
Yes.
And I know his stuff well enough to kind of negotiate and forgive.
Well, that's what I feel like the same way too. Like, oh, who am I going to find, you know, that's going to be like age appropriate for me? It's either going to be a guy who, you know, was a shitty husband or had a shitty wife and is now, you know, scarred from it. So no matter what, you're going to get a broken human being coming down the way.
And so it's like have their broken stuff, their hot mess stuff.
Yeah. There's no way that there's no like perfect, unless you're both, unless like two people had the best, you know, marriage ever and both their partners died, then maybe they could find each other and have like a perfect, but no matter what, you're going to be coming back with some shit. And in some ways you might be like such a better second time around because you know what you did, or you definitely don't want to make sure you did that, you know, that you don't repeat that. But yeah, it's like, well, we can work it out, you know, at least I know what I'm dealing with, you know. It just seems like so many women my age that like, you know, find somebody, it just all seems so great. And it's like, God, they're, you know, like I said, they're Dirty Johns, which is, you know, that show based on a true story, or they're players. And the other thing is with these guys, the straight guys, you know, that are like now 50 and on these apps, it's like you think about what their life was. Okay. So they were in high school in the 80s and 90s, and it was probably really hard to get a girlfriend or get laid. And then college was a real challenge to get laid. And then they got married, and then they were with their wife, and then someone cheated, and was got divorced. And now they're like 50 and they have like a couple bucks at a home. And every night some girl will drive to their house and fuck them. Like these guys, they are like, for a 50-year-old divorced guy who's straight, this is the greatest time of their life. Like I know it. It's so easy.
Yeah.
And and then all these women who are like 40 look at the guy and they're like, well, he's not that great. He's not that good looking, but at least he has a job and a home. So I'm going to lower my standard and be with this guy. Well, so is every other chick lowering their standards to be with this guy. So it's like, it's kind of hard. I definitely feel badly for, you know, I think it's a challenge. And if people can find that love second time around and both people are normal, I think it's great. But when you go on the apps and stuff, which is the way you kind of have to do it, it's, I see that pattern a lot. And it's impossible to really know if the person's being true to you or not in this digital age.